The quest Pyres of Novigrad is a major breath of fresh air for The Witcher 3. That might be confusing considering the name of this quest implies that the air is decidedly unfresh, but from a video game perspective, it's exactly the change in pace The Witcher 3's main quest needed. This quest is the game recalibrating itself, introducing new characters gracefully and plopping Geralt into a completely different environment. But how well executed is that change? Well, in general, it's really good, but there are moments where the polish and the atmosphere are a bit substandard, and I'm going to touch on all of that in this Witcher 3 quest analysis. The quest starts off with Geralt heading to Novigrad upon learning from the Bloody Baron that Ciri had headed over to the city. Once there, Geralt witnesses the work of the Church of the Eternal Fire and meets the head of their order in Novigrad, Menge. Geralt finds out that Triss Merigold is in hiding in the Putrid Grove, which is a haven of sorts for thieves, beggars, and now mages as they try to hide from the church's witch hunters. Geralt meets up with Triss, who then takes Geralt on a tour of Novigrad to see how well her life is going since he broke up with her in the second game. And that's not well at all, as she has to trek through sewers regularly, has to interact with rats, and has to wear disguises when out and about. Basically, this is the life of a Ninja Turtle. The quest ends with Geralt helping Triss fight off some witch hunters who probably work for Shredder, and Triss tells Geralt to seek out an Oneiromancer or something to find Ciri, whatever that is. Now, despite that lengthy description and some really big words that I struggle to pronounce, Pyres of Novigrad is actually pretty straightforward, which works to its benefit. It's a chance for The Witcher 3 to recalibrate itself. For the past 20 or so gameplay hours, you've been stuck out in the swamps of Velen dealing with these nuanced characters with many shades of gray, and these supernatural entities which you just don't know which one is the lesser evil. So it's nice to arrive in Novigrad with some clear villains. The Church of the Eternal Fire is just horrible. I mean, the bigotry is bad enough.
You are a mutant, a freak, a useless relic of a bygone age that should be burned like a withered branch.
But there are no shades of gray when they actually follow through on words like that. And Menge establishes himself as one of those absolutely vile villains who leaves no doubt in your mind that you are supposed to hate him.
Did you notice how much common folk love flames? The eternal fire will consume them all one day, one way or another.
So there aren't any redeeming qualities with Menge, and you know what? That's totally fine. Not everyone needs shades of gray, and this soon after interacting with Philip Strenger and Kira Metz, two characters who are so gray that I just had to edit this part in black and white, it would have probably felt too forced to have another character like that. And I'm really fine with Menge just being this really evil, unnuanced villain, because it simplifies things. It lets CDPR gracefully introduce the main star of Pyres of Novigrad. Novigrad is a massive city and such a stark contrast to Velen. Even before arriving in the city proper, the landscape just seems brighter, the colors are greener, the hills are hillier, I don't know, but it basically feels like a new map. And with Geralt's arrival in the city, everything about the game is recalibrating itself. Like, riding Roach still sucks, but it just sucks differently in an urban environment. Meanwhile, the aesthetic of the game is completely changed, both visually and orally, and the primary characters you're going to be interacting with are different. This really feels like the start of a new act, which is why it's always confused me how Velen and Novigrad are all considered part of Act 1. Novigrad feels like something completely new at this point in The Witcher 3, a major change to the status quo. Like, just hearing all the conversations happening around Geralt is a stark change. This has occurred in Velen too, but never in this quantity.
You again?
Bring us the usual.
Of course. Keep this up and you'll earn yourselves a preferential rate.
Come on.
Enjoy shagging friends. Treated to quenches of bad.
And the city itself feels like it has distinct neighborhoods, distinct biomes that feel very different from one another. And Pyres of Novigrad makes sure that you experience at least some of those different biomes by having you walk through the heavily non-human populated outer suburbs of Novigrad, to the main marketplace at Hierarch Square, and then to the Putrid Grove within the Lace Halls district, which is filled with these adorable harlots. And calling them adorable probably shows that I have no idea how to describe harlots. But I know exactly how to describe Novigrad. Novigrad is on fire! It's so well realized, and it reinforces the sense of the game recalibrating itself by having Geralt receive a ton of new quests. Whether it be from the many notice boards around the city, or randomly overhearing conversations, or having some chance encounters, there's no shortage of new content here. Now, I should mention that the core of the main plot hasn't changed at all. Ciri is still missing, Geralt is still looking for Ciri, and the Wild Hunt is still hunting Ciri, wildly I might add. But the details are a little bit different. No longer is Geralt using his tracking skills to search for Ciri in the wilderness. Now he's got to find Ciri in this medieval metropolis. And to do so, it requires a new assortment of secondary characters for Geralt to interact with. And that's how we meet Triss Merigold in The Witcher 3. And let me tell you, analyzing these quests, I'm constantly amazed at how well CDPR disguises its exposition in plain sight.
See you two know each other. See you two know each other well.
6 months ago, if somebody said Triss Merigold would be working for a Novigrad criminal, I'd never have believed it.
6 months ago, Triss Merigold parted with someone very dear to her and had to start anew.
I'm just glad to see you safe and sound.
Reconciled?
Like, even if you don't know these characters, this is a very elegant way of bringing players up to speed on their relationship without it sounding hand-holdy. Instead, it's done very subtly. And that subtlety allows the character moments to shine through, such as flirty Geralt, who is so playfully silly, I just love him.
Current must have carried the sack seaward. I'll swim towards the port. Coming with?
Maybe some other time.
Don't know what you're missing. Water's thick with pungent oils. Guessing it'll do wonders for my complexion.
And Triss gets her share of emotionally moving lines as well when it comes to their relationship. This hits home during that same conversation in the warehouse as she alludes to trying to get over what's happened between the two of them.
We're only ever the ones to know the truth about ourselves.
Which we share at times with those we hold dear.
Even if it's hard to swallow?
Even then.
Who knows? Maybe one day.
What I like about this dialogue is that it's indirect and awkward, kind of like you'd expect from two former lovers who are just dancing around a painful topic. It feels earnest in a way that I pretty much take for granted with CDPR's writing. But my problem with Triss in this quest is I don't think the romantic relationship is well introduced here. And now, part of that might be because I played The Witcher 2 like a decade ago and couldn't remember anything about it, so maybe that's why Geralt and Triss's relationship felt hollow. But that doesn't explain why Yennifer and Geralt's relationship feels so palpable in this game, despite the fact that before playing The Witcher 3, I had no idea who Yennifer was. In fact, I thought her name was Yennifer of Edinburgh. And yeah, I'm totally aware that I mispronounced the capital of Scotland for a cheap joke, but my point is that CD Projekt treats Yennifer with reverence in the game, while Triss just doesn't get the same care. Just look at how Yennifer is introduced here.
That brawl? We didn't start it.
Excuses, excuses. You've not changed a bit.
And compare that to when Geralt first sees Triss in the game.
Who do I spy?
Geralt?
Hey, Triss.
Now, I realize that these two scenes are supposed to be completely different. In one, Geralt is encountering his ex who he dumped 6 months ago, so it's going to be awkward. In the other, he's reuniting with his long-lost lover after years of not seeing her. But the problem is, Yennifer and Triss are treated gameplay-wise as romantic equals, but story-wise, the game really wants to be loyal to the books and makes Yennifer seem like the canon choice. And Pyres of Novigrad doesn't give the Triss romantic arc enough of a foundation to compete with that. Now, I'll talk more about all of this when I get to these characters' romantic quest lines, but for now I do want to shout out Pyres of Novigrad and how it handles Geralt's dialogue choices. I think they do a really smart thing here by not having any of Geralt's decisions and how he responds to Triss impact whether the player can actually romance Triss later in the game. Instead, they just provide some flavor. When Klug or Glug or whatever this guy's name is says he dumped Triss's ingredients in the river, Geralt can be goofy and jokey with her.
Well, some causes require a sacrifice.
Causes? What about people?
For people, same holds true.
So maybe you care to dive in after that sack for me.
You win.
Or he can be very straightforward and it doesn't change a thing.
I can do that. Where'd you toss the package?
Then when he says goodbye to her, he can be a bit warmer at the end of the quest.
It was nice to see you again.
You too, Geralt.
Or he can be a bit stilted and chilly.
Thanks for everything. See you, Triss.
And both options make sense. Sometimes people act cold towards their exes, and sometimes people can't help but slip back into flirting with them. My point is, though, it's good that the game doesn't lock you into anything here. Even when Triss mentions Yennifer, your choice here affects basically one word.
Tell me how Yen's doing.
She's not bad.
That's good.
Asking about anything specific.
Never mind. I got my answer.
Wow, that was way creepier than I intended. All I was trying to show was that Geralt's decision here doesn't impact anything, Maybe this is a better example.
You know a bat can sniff out a moth a mile away.
Small animals. Can't say I'm really interested.
I know your trade. Spotted those yellow eyes amidst the rabble in the square right away. And as bats sense moths, so I sense freaks. And start by warning them, Novigrad's no place for your kind. You know a bat can sniff out a moth a mile away.
What's your point?
I ask the questions, Witcher. And as bats sense moths, so I sense freaks.
See, it ends the same with Menge threatening Geralt. Nothing changes other than how it feels like Geralt is processing the threat. And I think this is actually a positive. This quest doesn't need complex decisions with spiraling repercussions, since it's a quest that's all about recalibrating things. There are still elements of diverging paths, but it's limited to the gameplay and not the story. These things include whether you beat information about Triss out of these looters or if you sweet talk them, whether Geralt gets full payment in advance from Brandon or not, and most interestingly, how Geralt gets into the Putrid Grove where Triss is hiding. He can either follow some thieves to the lair where he can schmooze his way in, or he can go and ask a bunch of beggars for the information, most of whom are happy to just take Geralt's money and then not give him any information. But once he gets the information from this beggar on the scaffold, he also has the password to get into the Putrid Grove without any of that schmoozing. None of this is a big deal, but it definitely adds some fun novelty and variety to Pyres of Novigrad. Of course, you can also get into the Putrid Grove through the sewers and maybe from the rooftops. I don't know, I don't have any footage for that. Sorry, I know I usually show all the choices in these videos, but this one's a little bit less polished than most of my videos. Kind of like how Pyres of Novigrad is a little bit less polished than what came before it. Like, there's just some weird sloppiness to how certain conversations play out in this quest. Like here in this one, Glurg or Churg or whatever his name is alerts Geralt and Triss to witch hunters outside of his home, and then he basically says, "Whew, that was close," when they're still outside having a conversation. And what about this conversation about Ciri?
Her? Here? No, impossible.
She was here. There are witnesses, evidence. Was hoping you'd heard something. You've been here a while. I need you to help me find something, anything, a trace.
I'll do everything I can, of course. Who might know more?
Wait, what? They just stopped and left in the middle of their conversation. They didn't finish it. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, unanswered questions. Does anyone know why Francis Bedlam, aka the King of Beggars, is built up to be a pretty interesting character, and then the game does like nothing with him after this quest? Like, doesn't he sound like he's about to play a much bigger part in this game?
See, Witcher, I've got plans. Big plans. Far-reaching plans to reshape this city head to toe. War shuffles the deck. In wartime, folks start to understand things. Start to wonder why magic's outlawed, even though it's so damn useful. Folk come to me knowing full well it's forbidden. You know why? Because they fear death by disease more than torture.
Unfortunately, as epic as that sounds, this is like the last meaningful interaction you have with him, unless you count seeing him in a towel as meaningful. I would have liked more from him. One thing I could use less of, though, is that really upbeat, jovial Novigrad music.
How are we to fight a pestilence that changes form? None can be certain of his father, brother, or bride. Look upon your neighbour, for he too could be a Doppler.
In a vacuum, I don't hate this music. It's like traditional RPG city music. It certainly conveys the atmosphere of Novigrad being this bustling commercial hub, and how different it is from Velen. But the problem is that far too often, that music is playing over scenes like this where Geralt is about to witness some old acquaintances and friends be burned alive in a religiously sanctioned genocide. Now thankfully the music does change up here when it goes into a cutscene, but still the damage to the atmosphere is done. It's so dissonant and out of tone from the story stuff that every time I play the quest, I don't actually feel those tensions in the air. And I want to, but that music just doesn't strike the right tone in my opinion. But at least the Novigrad music has the courtesy of bowing out of cutscenes and dialogue when appropriate, as we see here with Caleb Menge.
Don't even go to the grove. Someone call for me. Wonder why.
It's Menge.
Temple God.
On the other hand, that music that plays anytime Geralt has a somewhat sweet or romantic conversation, that music is super schmaltzy and cheesy, and it rears its ugly head in this quest.
Interesting method. Never had much luck with rats. Once I hit one with a fork in complete darkness, trying to show off my witcher's senses. Masterful throw, really. Problem was, no one else saw it. How could they in the dark?
So, what do you think? Rat catcher? It's a long way to fall from being advisor to Temeria's king.
There's some really good character stuff here with Geralt's nerdy humor and Triss's melancholic memories, and it does resonate, but it has to work extra hard to overcome that cheesy music. But while character beats can work with this music, tense and violent encounters just don't fare as well, and unfortunately that music ruins a key moment for Triss.
The job's done. Geralt, those are...
I know who they are, Triss.
My friends begged me to notify them if I encountered a mage, sorceress, what have you. Didn't have the heart to refuse.
It's a trap, Geralt.
This stank from the start.
My god, this scene just keeps going. I had to cut it off, it was so long. And the music was just so wrong for this. It's another reason why the weight of what's going on in Novigrad doesn't land for me. Because this is a very important moment for Triss. It shows that she's in constant danger as long as she's in Novigrad, and that the threat hovering over her is very real. But because of really poor usage of music, none of this feels dangerous in the least, and worst of all, it just feels silly. And FYI, that music's still going.
Just remember, I can't help but get in your way.
Heard enough.
Oh my god, thank you so much. Please turn that music off. I've had enough too. And if you just think I'm being overly dramatic, I've always wondered why Triss's storyline hasn't landed for me as much as I would like in my previous playthroughs of this game. And I think it has a little bit to do with how it starts here in Pyres of Novigrad. I feel like that music and the atmosphere is just off, so things just get off to a little bit of a rocky start. Which is a shame because Triss has a really powerful character arc in this game. She's brokering a deal with the King of Beggars where she's desperately trying to find safe haven for mages in exchange for their helping some of the less well-off in Novigrad.
I guess incurable disease is more terrifying than torture.
In that case, I'll count on more tribute coming in.
You already take 80% of what we receive.
Aye, but don't forget it's me who secures the nooks and crannies where you and yours can hide.
And to pay for Bedlam's services, she's having to risk going out into the city, risking her life to do menial tasks like killing rats for clearly shady individuals.
Triss, you told this man you're a sorceress?
Of course. She was looking for work. That's her chief asset.
Are you, Triss?
I know it was reckless, but competition's stiff here. No one would hire me if I claimed to be a common rat catcher.
So between her selfless act and putting herself in danger to help her fellow mages, and her desperation, Triss is just oozing humanity. Couple that with a good dose of shame when Brandon betrays her during that glorious romantic music.
He hired me on the assumption he wouldn't have to pay me, duped and trapped like a child. If not for you, we need to find Brandon.
All of this makes her so relatable, that she can be so critical of herself for something so understandable. I mean, her life has been absolutely upended. She's not used to sneaking around the poor criminal element in a grimy section of town. She's used to a much more opulent and grandiose lifestyle.
Geralt, we'd both rather be somewhere else. I'd rather be sitting in a royal council meeting, but they killed my king.
All of this is great setup for this heroic Triss character arc that is going to play out over the course of several quests. And seeing as I've long forgotten everything about The Witcher 2, it makes me very excited to go back and replay that, to see the character growth, to see Triss's through line to becoming this leader of the Novigrad Underground Railroad that she is becoming in The Witcher 3. I just hope that the music is appropriate. So thank you for watching, and if you enjoy this, please like and subscribe. I've been doing Witcher 3 quest analysis and also GTA 5 mission analysis now, and I'm going to be swapping back and forth. I enjoy both games. I like talking about both games, so that's going to be fun. But now for a little bit of sad news, and you can see it in my face, you can see it in my hand gestures. I'm just really sad, and that is I'm going on vacation next week, so I don't know how many videos I'm going to be able to release in the next couple of weeks, and it's just depressing. And I mean, everything about this just feels sad. I mean, if I had background music playing for my life, it would be really depressing, and I just hope that the atmosphere of this ending to this video doesn't bring your mood down as well. You know, I meant that to be a joke, but that music actually fit me way better than it does The Witcher 3.